Did you see last night's One News poll? And it wasn't great for the coalition, and to be fair, that's becoming a theme. And you can see that happening in a couple of ways. Like how their social media output right now seems kind of desperate when they should actually be celebrating the weekend AGM. But instead they're putting out stuff that's full of demonstrably false claims and has been trying to attack the opposition with strawman arguments like a vote for Labour is a vote for the Greens tax policy. Like a vote for National isn't also a vote for New Zealand First What's in Your Pants bill. Or odd posts like this one, with comments taken out from their socials out of context and put up on screen to make it look like those commentators are agreeing with what National says. Oh look, I can do that too. The fact is, though, the polls that we saw this week happened before this weekend, and to add to the mess, in the past few days the coalition's actually had a really big ton of bad press. There's their refusal to acknowledge their legislation on Dockland sets up the sale of Dockland if they want to. There's Brooke Van Velden's workplace law changes, which would make workplaces significantly less safe for the vast majority of workers out there. There's the David Seymour demanded appointee, Stephen Rainbow, who's the Human Rights Commissioner, currently being investigated for, well, to be honest, nobody knows because they're not telling us. So can't be anything good. Or the constant lying about Labour and their campaigns and calling the only parties that they can actually work with petulant children. And all of these polls happened before most of that hit the news. But if you want to see the trends in action, there is a few things to look at, okay? For the Varian poll specifically, this is the fourth poll in a row with the coalition dropping in support. And compared to other polls that have been released this month, it's actually pretty consistent with what we've been seeing. We're also seeing smaller parties on the left growing support. New Zealand First seems to be taking National and ACT voters, and Opportunity now has a couple of polls around the threshold. In fact, looking at the widest outcomes based on margin of error, we could actually see ACT drop below the threshold and Opportunity over it. Doesn't mean we get rid of David Seymour though, because the voters of Epsom keep making the same mistakes. And as I keep saying, polls are good for trends, but there's still months until the election, and you can't enroll and vote on the same day this year. So, make sure you're all lined up with that, because polls don't mean shit if you don't vote. So, if you want to see actual trends, remember, I've got you sorted on this one, okay? Over at election2026.co.nz, there is a heap of tools to help. There's the poll aggregate on the front page, which has been updated now to include the One News poll. This works by cross-referencing the polls that come out each month using a blended weighted model to remove individual poll bias. So it's basically combining all the polls we see and creating averages, and you can pick and choose if you want Curia data in there, since they refuse to be part of the regulatory body on political polling and are paid for by a partisan AstroTurf group with links to the Atlas Foundation. So if you don't want to have that in there, I totally get it. On top of that, because we've also had a bevy of policy announcements recently, like National's compulsory KiwiSaver, so they could one day stop giving out universal super payments, or Labour's transport cap, free maternity scans, free cervical scans, free prescriptions, and the Greens tax policy, which would see 96% of people get a tax cut. So I've updated the two policy tools that we've got there as well. There's the Policy Picker, which will ask you a series of questions based on policy announcements and stances and then suggest which answers align to which parties. And the Aotearoa Political Ahunga asks you to judge a statement and see how much you agree or disagree to help you find which parties are going to align with your values based on what their policies are. And the Electorate Guide has been updated up until the start of the weekend, so it's got every candidate that I've been able to find so far, and you can search for candidates that are running your electorate. And I should point out, for legal reasons, this is an objective tool, so I get to choose what facts go in there, which has upset at least one candidate who made my local government candidates to worry about list last year, who threatened another candidate in his electorate if they had anything to do with me. So I'm sure that's nothing to worry about. Anyway, those tools are up and running now at election2026.co.nz. And again, if you haven't yet, go double check those enrollment details. Hello there, Kia ora podcast listeners. This is just a really short, simple one because if you couldn't tell, this video is just kind of a promo for the website while using the framing of the kind of surprise poll from One News that showed up yesterday. I mean, normally their polls are Mondays. I'm pretty sure it's a Monday. But it's one of those things that is really fascinating for me when polls come out because, there's all this, oh my God, what's going on? But this poll was done like a week and a bit ago. So the people that they're surveying are dealing with what was current then. It's just another sign, another way of looking at polls as being something that's about a snapshot in time. not necessarily, exciting kind of stuff. It'll be really interesting to see what the next poll is, because that will incorporate things like the stuff that we've been doing content on over the last couple of days, or all of the lying, the constant lying from National, or the AGM that they did, or it'll have all sorts of stuff in there. So I'm very curious to see how that goes, but we'll worry about it then. In the meantime, I actually spent most of today doing updates on the website, which is kind of what today's video is about. There's updates to the compass, or the ahunga, the picker, the candidate list for your electorates. That's my job for this week, because there's been 2 new candidates mentioned, named for South Auckland for New Zealand First. But I've actually found it really hard to find their names. Like, there's been no press releases or anything with their names that I've been able to find from New Zealand First. Just videos going, we announced 2 candidates. Why is the press not covering it? Actually, that was one of the things that annoyed me as well about the coverage on One News tonight. And I might do a video about this later. But they had that interview with Winston Peters, asking him, why do you think you're doing so well in the polls? Like, well, we're the only party going out there having meetings with the public. I went to a meeting last week with Kieran McAnulty and Shannon Halbert here on the shore. They're having meetings. Other parties are having meetings all over the place. I've seen photos crop up from every single political party saying that they're having meetings. So I'm not quite sure why New Zealand First thinks they're the only ones, but the One News reporter, Benedict Collins, should have pushed back on it or done something on it, saying, well, actually, but they didn't, which gives the impression that what Winnie is saying is right, when again, he's a rambling 81-year-old man who's clearly not telling everybody the truth. Polls, man, weird. Anyway, if you get a chance, go to election2026.co.nz. Check out the updated poll results, the poll aggregate, all of that kind of stuff. Play with the tools that are there, because you can. Go into the games section. There are games there as well. All sorts of bits and bobs. Until tomorrow, I'm going to leave that to you. Go and like and share and subscribe and all the rest of it. Until next time, ka kite anō.